In the year 3124, humanity had finally stretched its reach across the stars. The galaxy was a chaotic patchwork of civilizations, each vying for power and resources. Among them stood the Zoravii, an alien race known for their elegance, intellect, and unrelenting pride. Their queen, Silvara, ruled with wisdom as old as her people's ancient forests but carried a ferocity that could ignite entire star systems if provoked. Captain Rylan Cross wasn't supposed to be on this mission. He was just another soldier in Earth's interstellar defense force, sent to scout the borderlands between human territory and Zoravii space. But fate has a strange way of rewriting destinies. When his squad intercepted a distress signal from a remote outpost, they stumbled into something far bigger than anyone anticipated. A trap set by rogue mercenaries aiming to assassinate Queen Silvara herself. The ambush happened fast. Plasma bolts lit up the jungle moon where the team had landed, and chaos erupted around them. Rylan ducked behind a fallen tree trunk, gripping his rifle tightly as he assessed the situation. His comrades were scattered, pinned down by relentless fire. And then he saw it. A sleek hovercraft emerging from the shadows, carrying none other than Queen Silvara herself. She was flanked by only 2 guards, her shimmering emerald robes flowing like liquid light even amidst the chaos. Rylan didn't think twice. The mercenaries weren't ordinary thugs. They were elite killers equipped with weapons designed specifically to pierce through Zoravii physiology. One bolt hit close enough to singe his armor, and Rylan realized what they were firing wasn't standard ammunition. It was poisoned arrows laced with neurotoxins lethal to both species. As one of those deadly projectiles streaked toward Silvara, time seemed to slow. Without hesitation, Rylan leaped forward, using every ounce of strength to push the queen out of harm's way. Pain exploded in his shoulder as the arrow found its mark instead. He crashed to the ground, gasping, vision swimming as the toxin began to spread. Through the haze, he heard shouts, his teammates rallying, driving back the attackers, but all he could focus on was the pair of luminous golden eyes staring down at him. "You saved me," Silvara whispered, her voice soft yet commanding. Her delicate hands hovered over his wound, glowing faintly with some kind of energy. "Why?" "Because I'm not letting anyone die today," Rylan managed to croak before darkness claimed him. When Rylan woke up, he was no longer on the jungle moon but aboard a sleek Zoravii vessel. The walls shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, pulsing gently like a living organism. His shoulder throbbed dully, though the pain was manageable thanks to advanced medical technology. A soft chime alerted him to someone entering the room. Turning his head, he saw Silvara standing there, her regal presence undiminished despite the casual attire she now wore, a simple tunic adorned with intricate embroidery. "You're awake," she said, her tone somewhere between relief and curiosity. "How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a freighter," Rylan replied wryly, earning a small smile from the queen. "But alive. Thanks to you." Silvara inclined her head. "Your bravery is unexpected. Humans are often portrayed as reckless and self-serving. Yet here you are, risking your life for mine without hesitation." Rylan shrugged, wincing slightly at the movement. "Maybe we're not all bad. Besides, saving lives is kind of my job." Her expression softened, though a flicker of something deeper lingered in her gaze. "You have honored me, Captain Cross. In our culture, such an act carries immense weight. It demands repayment." Before Rylan could respond, she continued, "I wish to repay you personally. You will accompany me to my homeworld, where we can discuss your desires. Whatever you ask, within reason, shall be granted." Rylan blinked, caught off guard. Thanks, Your Majesty. But I don't need anything special. Just doing my duty." Silvara tilted her head, studying him intently. "That may be true. However, among my people, honor cannot go unanswered. This is non-negotiable." And so, against his better judgment, Rylan found himself en route to Zirav Prime, the heart of the Zoravii civilization. As the ship descended through the planet's atmosphere, he gazed out the viewport in awe. Towering crystalline spires rose from lush green landscapes, interconnected by bridges made of translucent material that refracted sunlight into dazzling rainbows. It was beautiful, and completely alien. Upon arrival, Rylan was treated like royalty, much to his discomfort. Servants attended to his every need, offering delicacies he couldn't pronounce and garments tailored to fit him perfectly. Despite the luxury, he couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. Everywhere he went, curious stares followed him. Some Zaravii seemed intrigued, others looked downright hostile. One evening, during a grand feast held in his honor, Silvara approached him with a proposition that left him speechless. "Captain Cross," she began, her voice steady yet tinged with emotion, "in accordance with Zaravii tradition, I must offer you something equal to the value of your sacrifice. Therefore, I propose marriage." The hall fell silent. Rylan nearly choked on his drink. "Wait, what? Marriage?" Silvara raised a hand to silence the murmurs rising around them. "It is customary for acts of great valor to be repaid with bonds of unity. By marrying me, you would become part of my lineage, ensuring your legacy endures forever." But, Rylan stammered, utterly flabbergasted. "I mean, I appreciate the gesture really, but this is a bit extreme, don't you think?" Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Extreme measures are sometimes necessary when dealing with matters of honor. Do not worry. I am aware this is sudden. Take time to consider. Speak freely. I value honesty above all else." With that, she swept away, leaving Rylan to grapple with the absurdity of the situation. Marry the alien queen? Sure, she was stunning and intelligent, but they barely knew each other. What would his superiors say? His friends? Hell, what would he say? Over the next few days, Rylan wrestled with the decision. On one hand, refusing might insult the Zaravii, potentially straining relations between their species. On the other hand, agreeing felt like stepping into a lifetime commitment based solely on obligation. To make matters worse, he couldn't shake the nagging suspicion that accepting might change everything, not just for him, but for humanity itself. During a private walk through the palace gardens, Rylan voiced his concerns to Silvara. "Look, I get why you're doing this. Really, I do. But marriage isn't something to take lightly. People back home won't understand. They'll think I've gone native or worse, that I'm playing politics." Silvara listened patiently, her golden eyes reflecting the setting sun. "I understand your hesitation. Believe me, this is unusual even for me. But tell me, Captain Cross, what drives you? What compels you to risk your life for strangers?" Rylan paused, considering her question. "I guess I want to make a difference. To leave things better than I found them. That's why I joined the IDF." She nodded thoughtfully. "Then perhaps this is your chance to make a greater difference. Together, we could forge a new path, one where humans and Zaravii stand united rather than divided. Is that not worth exploring?" Her words struck a chord deep within him. For the first time since waking up aboard her ship, Rylan allowed himself to entertain the possibility. Not because he owed her, but because maybe, just maybe, it wasn't such a crazy idea after all. Meanwhile, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Not everyone in the Zaravii court approved of Silvara's decision. Whispers of dissent reached Rylan's ears, painting him as an outsider who didn't belong. Some accused the queen of weakness, while others feared the implications of aligning too closely with humans. Even among his own kind, rumors spread like wildfire, turning Rylan into either a hero or a traitor depending on who you asked. Amidst the growing uncertainty, Rylan found solace in unexpected places. Silvara's younger brother, Prince Talis, proved to be a surprisingly good ally. Unlike many of his kin, Talis welcomed Rylan warmly, sharing stories about growing up under Silvara's protective wing. "She doesn't let anyone see it," Talis confided one evening, "but she carries the weight of our world on her shoulders. If anyone deserves happiness, it's her." Rylan chuckled dryly. "Happiness? I'm not sure proposing marriage to a guy who jumped in front of a poisoned arrow counts as romantic." Talis grinned. "Perhaps not. But love rarely follows logic, does it?" As days turned into weeks, Rylan grew closer to Silvara, learning more about her struggles and triumphs. She, in turn, opened up about her hopes for the future, a future she envisioned including him. Slowly but surely, the initial shock of her proposal gave way to genuine affection. Yet doubts still lingered, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. One fateful night, as fireworks illuminated the palace skyline during a festival celebrating Zaravii unity, Rylan pulled Silvara aside. "If I agree to this," he began hesitantly, "it won't just be about repaying a debt. It'll be because I believe in us, in what we can achieve together." Silvara's eyes sparkled with unshed tears. "Then let us build that future, side by side." Their kiss sealed the promise, igniting cheers from onlookers who had gathered nearby. For a moment, it felt as though the universe itself held its breath, waiting to see what came next. But peace never lasts long in a galaxy teeming with conflict. News arrived of an impending invasion, a coalition of rival factions determined to overthrow the Zaravii monarchy. Suddenly, Rylan found himself thrust into the role of protector once again, this time fighting not just for survival but for the fragile bond he'd forged with Silvara. As battles raged across Zirav Prime, alliances were tested, secrets uncovered, and sacrifices demanded. Through it all, Rylan clung to one truth. Love, no matter how unconventional, had the power to transcend even the vastness of space. What happens next remains unwritten, the story unfolding like the stars themselves, bright, unpredictable, and full of endless possibilities. The invasion came swiftly, catching everyone off guard. Despite the advanced warning, the sheer scale of the assault was overwhelming. Armadas of sleek warships descended upon Zirav Prime, their hulls glinting ominously under the planet's twin suns. The invaders were a coalition of species united by one goal: to dismantle the Zaravii monarchy and claim the planet's resources for themselves. They had no qualms about destroying everything, and everyone, in their path. Rylan stood on the palace balcony, watching as explosions lit up the horizon. Columns of smoke rose from once pristine cities, and the air buzzed with the hum of enemy fighters. Beside him, Silvara gripped the railing tightly, her golden eyes reflecting both fury and determination. For all her grace and poise, she was also a warrior queen, ready to defend her people at any cost. "We can't let them take the capital," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding below. "If they breach the palace, it's over." Rylan turned to her, his jaw set. "Then we won't let that happen." Silvara gave him a sharp look. "You're not obligated to fight this battle, Captain Cross. You've already done more than enough." He shook his head firmly. "I made my choice, remember? If I'm going to be part of your world, then I'm fighting for it too." Her lips curved into a faint smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Very well. But don't think I'll go easy on you just because you're my fiancé." "Wouldn't dream of it," he replied with a grin. The defense of the palace was chaotic and brutal. Rylan found himself leading a mixed force of human soldiers and Zaravii warriors, an alliance forged in desperation but bound by mutual respect. Together, they held the line against wave after wave of invaders, their backs pressed against the shimmering crystalline walls of the royal citadel. At one point, Rylan found himself face to face with a towering alien commander, a hulking brute encased in black armor that seemed impervious to bullets. The creature roared, swinging a massive blade that cleaved through the air mere inches from Rylan's head. Ducking and weaving, Rylan fired shot after shot, each one ricocheting harmlessly off the alien's reinforced plating. Just when it seemed like the end, a streak of emerald light struck the commander from behind, sending him crashing to the ground. Rylan spun around to see Silvara standing there, her hands glowing with energy. She gave him a quick nod before turning her attention back to the battlefield, unleashing another pulse of power that sent several enemies flying. "You're really starting to make me look bad," Rylan quipped as he joined her side. She smirked. "Don't worry. Your bravery is impressive enough." Despite their efforts, the tide of battle began to turn against them. Reinforcements poured in from orbit, and the defenders were slowly pushed back toward the inner sanctum of the palace. It was clear they couldn't hold out much longer, not without help. In a desperate bid to turn the tables, Talise proposed a risky plan: sabotage the enemy fleet from within. Using a captured shuttle, a small strike team would infiltrate the flagship and disable its command systems, crippling the invaders' ability to coordinate their attack. "I'm coming with you," Rylan insisted when the details were laid out. Talise frowned. "This mission is suicide. You're needed here to protect my sister. And she's needed here to lead her people," Rylan countered. "But if this works, we might actually have a chance." Besides, I've got experience with crazy missions. Silvara intervened before the argument could escalate. Enough. Both of you are right and wrong. Talise, you know the layout of those ships better than anyone. Rylan, you have a knack for surviving impossible odds. She locked eyes with him, her expression unreadable. Just promise me you'll come back. I promise, he said softly. The infiltration was harrowing. Dodging patrols and disabling security systems, Rylan and Talise fought their way deeper into the flagship. Along the way, they encountered resistance far greater than anticipated, elite shock troops armed with devastating weaponry. At one point, Talise took a hit to his leg, forcing Rylan to drag him to cover while returning fire. This is insane, Talise muttered, clutching his wound. We should have brought more backup. Yeah, well, hindsight's 20/20, Rylan replied, grinning despite the situation. Besides, where's the fun in playing it safe? Eventually, they reached the flagship's core chamber, a massive room filled with pulsating conduits and holographic displays. In the center stood the ship's captain, a reptilian figure with scales that shimmered like molten gold. He sneered as Rylan and Talise entered, drawing a serrated blade. You're too late, the captain hissed. The signal has already been sent. Your precious planet will burn. Rylan exchanged a glance with Talise, who nodded grimly. Guess we'll have to settle for Plan B. What followed was a fierce duel, with Rylan dodging lethal strikes while searching for an opening. Finally, seizing a moment of opportunity, he lunged forward, driving his combat knife into the captain's chest. With a final roar, the alien collapsed, his body dissolving into ash. Now what? Talise asked, leaning heavily on Rylan for support. Now we blow this thing sky high, Rylan said, pulling out a series of explosive charges. Time to even the odds. Back on the surface, the defenders were on the verge of collapse. Enemy forces breached the palace gates, and Silvara prepared to make a final stand. Just as she raised her weapon, a deafening explosion rocked the skies above. Looking up, she saw the flagship disintegrate in a brilliant burst of light, debris raining down like fiery meteors. Cheers erupted among the defenders as the invaders faltered, their coordination shattered. Seizing the moment, Silvara led a counterattack, driving the remaining forces back toward their landing zones. By the time reinforcements arrived from neighboring systems, the battle was all but won. Later that night, battered but victorious, Rylan returned to the palace. Silvara greeted him with a mixture of relief and exasperation, pulling him into a tight embrace. You idiot, she murmured, her voice trembling. Do you have any idea how worried I was? I told you I'd come back, he said, smiling despite his exhaustion. Yes, but next time, try not to give me a heart attack while doing it. As they stood together, watching the first rays of dawn break over the horizon, Rylan realized something important. This wasn't just about repaying a debt or forging alliances, it was about finding a place where he truly belonged. And maybe, just maybe, he'd found it. Of course, peace in the galaxy was never guaranteed. New threats loomed on the horizon, and old wounds still needed healing. But for now, amidst the ruins of war, there was hope and love. The aftermath of the battle left Zerov Prime in a state of cautious optimism. The invaders had been driven back, their coalition fractured and their morale shattered. Yet scars remained, both on the land and in the hearts of those who had fought so fiercely to protect it. Smoke still curled from the ruins of once thriving cities, and makeshift memorials dotted the landscape where countless lives had been lost. Silvara stood at the forefront of rebuilding efforts, her leadership unwavering even as she bore the weight of her people's grief. Rylan watched her tirelessly navigate diplomatic meetings, oversee reconstruction projects, and comfort grieving families. It was humbling to witness her strength, but also heartbreaking to see how much she carried alone. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens now marred by craters and scorched earth, Rylan finally voiced what had been weighing on his mind. You don't have to do this all by yourself, you know. She glanced at him, her golden eyes reflecting the fading light. Do what? Everything, he said simply. Being queen doesn't mean you have to shoulder every burden alone. Let me help you. Let us help you. For a moment, Silvara looked like she might argue, but then her shoulders sagged slightly, a rare crack in her regal facade. "I've always believed that my duty comes first. That showing weakness would undermine everything I've worked for." "And yet," Rylan countered gently, "showing vulnerability isn't weakness, it's humanity. Your people need to see that you're not just their queen, you're one of them. Someone who hurts, hopes, and fights alongside them." Her gaze softened, and she reached out to take his hand. "Perhaps you're right. Perhaps I've been trying too hard to be perfect." "You're already perfect," he teased with a lopsided grin, earning a playful swat on the arm. But beneath the humor lay a deeper truth. Silvara didn't need to be flawless to inspire loyalty or love. She just needed to be herself. As weeks passed, Rylan became more than just a fiancé. He became a partner in every sense of the word. Together, he and Silvara spearheaded initiatives to rebuild not only infrastructure but also trust between humans and Zoravii. They introduced cultural exchange programs, encouraged joint research projects, and even hosted festivals celebrating both species' traditions. Slowly but surely, the animosity that had once simmered beneath the surface began to fade. But not everyone welcomed these changes. A faction within the Zoravii court, led by an elder named Valeth, viewed Rylan's presence and influence as a threat to their way of life. "Our customs are sacred," Valeth argued during a heated council meeting. "We cannot allow an outsider to dictate how we live." "It's not about dictating," Silvara replied calmly, though her voice carried an edge of steel. "It's about evolving. If we cling to the past without embracing the future, we risk stagnation and eventual extinction." Valetha's lips curled into a sneer. "And what would you know of our future? You've chosen to bind yourself to a human, a creature whose lifespan is but a blink compared to ours." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to Rylan. He stepped forward, meeting Valetha's glare head-on. "Maybe my time here is shorter than most," he said evenly. "But while I'm here, I'll do everything I can to make sure it counts, for both our peoples." His words earned murmurs of approval from some council members, but Valeth remained unconvinced. As the meeting adjourned, he shot Rylan a look that promised trouble ahead. Trouble came sooner than expected. Late one night, Rylan was awakened by the sound of alarms blaring throughout the palace. Grabbing his weapon, he rushed outside to find chaos erupting once again, but this time, the enemy wasn't external. Armed rebels stormed the corridors, their faces obscured by masks, shouting slogans about restoring Zoravii purity. Rylan quickly realized they were targeting Silvara. Without hesitation, he fought his way toward her chambers, taking down attackers with brutal efficiency. When he finally reached her, she was surrounded by loyal guards, her expression grim but resolute. "We need to get you out of here," Rylan urged, scanning the area for threats. "No," Silvara said firmly. "Running won't solve anything. If we flee, it will only embolden them further." He hesitated, torn between protecting her and respecting her decision. Before he could respond, a loud explosion shook the palace, sending debris raining down around them. In the ensuing confusion, Valeth appeared, flanked by several rebels. "This ends now," Valeth declared, raising a weapon aimed directly at Silvara. "Your reign has brought nothing but ruin. It's time for a new order." Rylan stepped in front of Silvara, shielding her with his body. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." Valetha's eyes narrowed. "So be it." What followed was a tense standoff, with neither side willing to back down. Just as it seemed violence was inevitable, reinforcements arrived, loyalists who had rallied to defend their queen. Outnumbered, the rebels retreated, leaving behind a trail of destruction. In the days that followed, Valeth and his followers were captured and brought to justice. Though many called for severe punishment, Silvara chose a different path. "Hatred breeds hatred," she explained during a public address. "If we seek to heal our divisions, we must extend compassion, even to those who oppose us." Her decision sparked mixed reactions, but over time, it helped mend some of the fractures within Zoravii society. For Rylan, it reinforced his admiration for her wisdom and courage. Yet even as peace slowly took root, personal challenges loomed. One quiet evening, as they sat together under the stars, Silvara turned to Rylan with a question that caught him off guard. "Do you ever regret choosing this life? Being with me?" He blinked, surprised by the vulnerability in her tone. "Regret? No. Not for a second. But sometimes," he paused, searching for the right words, "sometimes I wonder if I'm holding you back. If there's something, or someone, you're giving up because of me." She smiled softly, reaching out to cup his cheek. "You misunderstand. Being with you hasn't taken anything away from me. It's given me everything. Purpose. Hope. Love. Things I never thought I'd find." Rylan felt a lump rise in his throat. "Same here. You've shown me what it means to belong, not just to a place, but to someone." Their kiss was tender yet filled with unspoken promises. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Meanwhile, whispers of unrest continued to ripple across the galaxy. Rumors spread of a shadowy organization pulling strings behind the scenes, manipulating events to destabilize alliances like the one forming between humans and Zoravii. Agents loyal to this group began infiltrating key systems, sowing discord and sabotaging peace talks. When Rylan intercepted intel suggesting an assassination plot against Silvara, he knew they couldn't afford complacency. Working closely with Talise, they devised a plan to expose the conspirators before they could strike. What they uncovered shocked them to the core. High-ranking officials from multiple species were involved, including some who had publicly supported unity. Confronting these traitors wouldn't be easy, but Rylan and Silvara refused to back down. With each revelation, their resolve only grew stronger. They weren't just fighting for themselves anymore. They were fighting for a future where cooperation triumphed over conflict. As they prepared for the battles ahead, Rylan found himself reflecting on how far they'd come. From a chance encounter on a jungle moon to standing side by side as leaders of a fragile yet hopeful alliance, their journey had been anything but ordinary. And though the road ahead promised danger and uncertainty, he knew one thing for certain. The conspiracy unraveled like a tightly wound thread, revealing layers of deceit that reached farther than anyone had anticipated. Rylan and Silvara worked tirelessly to expose the shadowy organization behind the unrest, enlisting allies from both human and Zoravii factions. It was a dangerous game, one that tested their courage, trust, and unity at every turn. One pivotal moment came when they infiltrated a secret summit where the conspirators planned their next move. Disguised as delegates, Rylan and Silvara gathered damning evidence. Encrypted data files detailing sabotage operations, assassinations, and even plans for a coordinated attack on Zirav Prime. But just as they were about to leave undetected, alarms blared, betraying their presence. Chaos erupted. Guards swarmed the chamber, weapons drawn, while Rylan and Silvara fought back to back, their movements synchronized as if choreographed by years of shared battles. They weren't just partners in leadership, they were warriors bound by an unbreakable bond. "Got what we need?" Rylan shouted over the din, dodging a plasma bolt. Silvara nodded, clutching the stolen data drive. "Let's get out of here." They made their escape through a labyrinth of corridors, pursued relentlessly by armed mercenaries. At one point, Rylan shoved Silvara into a narrow alcove, shielding her with his body as enemy fire ricocheted around them. When the barrage finally subsided, she looked up at him, her eyes blazing with emotion. "You can't keep doing this," she exclaimed, half scolding, half laughing despite the danger. "I'm supposed to be the protector, remember?" He grinned, brushing dust off his shoulder. "Old habits die hard." Finally breaking free, they transmitted the evidence to galactic authorities, sparking outrage across civilizations. The conspirators were arrested, their plots dismantled before they could inflict further damage. For the first time in decades, there was hope, not just for humans and Zoravii, but for all species seeking peace in the galaxy. With the immediate threat neutralized, attention turned to rebuilding not just structures, but relationships. Under Silvara's guidance and Rylan's unwavering support, interstellar cooperation flourished. Trade routes reopened, scientific collaborations thrived, and cultural exchanges became commonplace. Even skeptics began to see the value in unity, though old prejudices took time to fade entirely. For Rylan and Silvara, the challenges didn't disappear overnight. There were still moments of doubt, arguments over strategy, and sleepless nights spent worrying about the future. But through it all, they leaned on each other, finding strength in their differences and comfort in their shared vision. Their wedding day arrived like a beacon of light after a long storm. Held in the heart of the rebuilt palace gardens, the ceremony blended human and Zaravii traditions, symbolizing the fusion of two worlds. Guests included dignitaries from across the galaxy, soldiers who had fought alongside them, and ordinary citizens whose lives had been touched by their efforts. As Rylan stood waiting at the altar, a simple yet elegant structure adorned with flowers and glowing crystals, he couldn't help but marvel at how far he'd come. From a soldier simply following orders to a man standing ready to unite two civilizations, his journey felt almost surreal. When Silvara appeared, escorted by Talise, Rylan's breath caught in his throat. She wore a gown that shimmered like starlight, its intricate design reflecting both her regal heritage and the simplicity of human elegance. Her golden eyes met his, filled with love and determination, and in that moment, he knew. No matter what the universe threw at them, they would face it together. The vows they exchanged were heartfelt and honest, promising not only devotion but also a commitment to building a better future. As they sealed their union with a kiss, cheers erupted from the crowd, echoing across the garden and beyond. Years passed, and the legacy of Rylan and Silvara grew stronger with each passing day. Their alliance became a model for others, inspiring countless partnerships between species once divided by fear and mistrust. Together, they navigated the complexities of ruling a diverse coalition, always prioritizing compassion over conflict. One evening, as they stood on the palace balcony watching the twin suns set over Zirav Prime, Silvara rested her head on Rylan's shoulder. "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if you hadn't jumped in front of that arrow?" He chuckled softly. "Probably. But I don't regret it. Not for a second. Besides, look where it got us." She smiled, her gaze drifting toward the horizon. "It's beautiful, isn't it? A world where humans and Zaravii live side by side, working toward something greater than themselves." "It's more than beautiful," Rylan said, wrapping an arm around her. "It's home." And so, their story unfolded, not without its trials, but rich with love, purpose, and hope. In a galaxy fraught with uncertainty, Rylan and Silvara proved that even the smallest acts of bravery could spark monumental change. Their bond transcended boundaries, united hearts, and paved the way for a brighter tomorrow. In the end, theirs was a tale of sacrifice rewarded, trust earned, and love triumphant, a testament to the enduring power of connection in a vast and often unforgiving universe. And as they stood together under the stars, surrounded by the fruits of their labor, they knew. Their happily ever after wasn't just a destination, it was a journey they would cherish forever.